Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Good morning, councillors and good morning, officers. Welcome to our Ordinary Council meeting for the 14th of February 2023. I'd like to open the meeting and firstly I'd like to acknowledge acknowledgement of country. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet today, the Darumbal people, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to our neighbouring Aboriginal peoples within our local government area, the Gungaloo Nation people, the Barada, Cabelbarra and Yetamarala people, and also extend and acknowledge the Torres Strait Islander peoples who land are in the Torres Straits but who live and work on Aboriginal land. Councillors, we'll open this. We'll also move on to opening prayer delivered by Pastor Jonathan Maxwell, Peace Christian Church, a former council employee. So welcome, Jonathan. Thank you.
No, thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for this day and for the team here that leads this city. I thank you for grace and wisdom for the work. I thank you for efficiency to get through everything that's needed today. And I also ask you would put peace and prosperity on this town, that it would blossom and boom and go well. I thank you for Rockhampton and bless it to this day. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.
Yeah. Probably up the door now. Okay, councillors present, we have an apology from Councillor Smith, late apology, she won't be in attendance today. And Evan's here, there we go, so Evan is, was en route. I heard that you're on your way for the meeting this morning. So councillors, we have that apology from Councillor Smith. Could I seek a mover and a second with regards to the minutes from the previous meeting that was held on the 24th of January 2023 to be confirmed as true and accurate record? Move Councillor Kirkland, seconded Councillor Latcham. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Declarations of interest in matters on the agenda. Councillors, we have a declaration from Councillor Kirkland. Councillor Kirkland, would you like to walk us through that one, please?
I'll just read it out. Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to inform the meeting that I've prescribed conflict of interest in item 16.1, application for concession of undetected leak rebate policy, residential, as my daughter Alex Price and son-in-law Nathan Price live in close proximity to the subject of the report and potentially have a related concern. I will leave the meeting while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Kirkland. There are no further declarations, but Councillor, if there are further agenda items there that you realise that you may have a conflict, please raise them at that time. We can deal with them throughout the meeting. Moving on to item 6, the outstanding business nil, public forums deputation nil, presentation of petitions nil, and the committee reports nil. So we move straight in. Oh, sorry, item 10, councillor delegate report, leave of absence for Councillor Drew Wickerson from the 6th of March 23 to the 17th of March 23. I'm happy to move as recommended. Seek a seconder. Councillor Mathers. Put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Moving on to the officers' reports. 11.1 electronic scooters, end of the 12-month trial period. So I'll hand over to Greg from AR to walk us through that report. Thanks very much, Greg, and good morning.
Morning, Mayor and councillors. Thank you, Mayor. An exciting time to stand here 12 months post the introduction of these scooters. I will say all through the report, Mary Ryan been administering from the economic side and John Buckingham, his department, administering the permit. So welcome to both of them today as well. But so they're really the ones that have been looking after this over the last 12 months. But it's probably some of the key highlights, and obviously happy to take any questions. There are broader and more detailed reports associated with this and surveys. But, you know, the number of trips, you know, we see on that report, 21,000, I think, if I remember rightly. Oh, sorry, 176,000 trips taken. You know, also that 66% of somebody purchasing something along the way on their trip. So, you know, they become a great public transport use. I see them going to building sites quite regularly, so people without vehicles and or replacing vehicle trips. And I think, you know, from a sustainability angle, that was also one of the things that we were hoping would occur over this 12 months, to see those short car trips replaced by e-mobility. From a safety point of view, I feel personally that Neuron, we've chosen the right company. They have a very big focus on safety. Obviously, there will be accidents, and those statistics are also reported in there. We've also seen a very large increase in privately owned scooters. And you know, these scooters can tend, in some occasions, to be much more powerful and not speed limited. So, you know, when you hear of accidents, it's not always an orange scooter. In the main, it's probably not an orange scooter. But you know, I'm certainly not going to discourage use while the law allows those things to happen. But I suppose just in general, whether they be an orange scooter or growth in privately owned e-mobility, I would encourage that, because again, from a sustainability angle and just a movement around the local area, I believe it is a good thing. My personal opinions are probably showing through here along the way. There is a dollar figure in there of $65 per trip. It's not a Rockhampton surveyed figure. It's a survey that was done in other cities, and that was actually a user figure that came out. And you know, even if it's half of that, it's still a significant injection to the local economy. And whether that's replacing or adding to something that might have happened anyway, but you can still see an economic benefit. Also, Neuron have brought on 25 employees in this period, and they continue to service these. And if you don't know already, they've also now extended their not through our permit, but down to Livingston. So that's allowed them to employ more people in the region as well and service them, mostly out of Rockhampton. So we have seen, you know, a small employment factor come from this as well. So our recommendations today is to receive this, this report and the figures in there, to support the continued permitting and continued use of commercial e-scooters in the Rockhampton region, and then to support the continued expansion into Parkhurst and/or Gracemere at a price of $100, or a fee, sorry, of up to $100 per additional scooter. So, hoping to any questions, of course.
Got a couple of questions there, so I'll go around the table and I have a few then, Greg. So, Councillor Kirkland, Councillor Latcham, then Councillor Mathers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My computer won't open, Greg, and I know that I have questions around here, so I will go from my memory of reading the report, and it is that I wanted to ask if there could be feedback given with regards to the scooters being left lying across footpaths and just randomly strewn all over the neighbourhoods of our region, looking quite untidy in that regard. If there's any, I suppose, racks or anything that they could, or designated stations of leaving these scooters that could potentially tidy that up. The reason I'm concerned about that is that I have had residents talk about tripping over them in the night on the footpaths and those types of things, and elderly people not even being able, because they're quite heavy when they're not moving, you know, to try and lift it and move it out of the way. And especially if we've got people who are in other modes of, you know, mobility needs, be it pushers or or prams or wheelchairs. They actually are also being inconvenienced by just the random laying of these scooters all over the paths. So that is one thing that I am concerned about. Yes, granted that there's been accidents, but when we look at it in proportion to how many of the scooters are on the road and whether or not the Neuron scooters or the privately owned scooters, I acknowledge that there's been some changes in the law to bring the speeds back, and I am expecting that Neuron have changed all of their speed gauges on the scooters for that. Is that correct? And then I do have another question around Parkhurst.
Okay, to address probably your last question, yes, they are complying with all laws. Neuron work very closely with the Queensland State Government. They're the biggest supplier in Queensland of e-mobility or commercial e-mobility. So they're complying with all of those, and I know personally that the speeds have now been limited. I'm not a big fan of that, but I do understand fully. And that, as I say, from a safety point of view, they are very focused and very compliant. From your first question, most of these e-mobility companies have shied away, and actually several cities have as well, of having designating parking areas for scooters or racking areas. It limits what the user can and can't do, and once you start to put those restrictions in, you see the usage drop. So I do get that, and I'm sure John's listening over there, and we'll take that on board and have a chat to Neuron, which I'm sure he does on a regular basis anyway. That comes down to an education point of view of the user and the rider, and you will find if you've used these things, you will sometimes get that safety message, and from time to time it will be, please park your scooter safely, please don't park on the footpath. You'll actually, as you scan on, you'll get that message, and you have to say okay before you can continue. So it's probably putting it in somebody's head from an education point of view at the time they're riding.
So flowing on from that response then, is there the capacity of Neuron to instill a fine for people who are causing an obstruction by leaving their scooters in a spot that's going to create havoc for the other users of the paths?
To my knowledge, they don't have the ability to fine. That is up to the police. That is to my knowledge. The rider does need to take a photograph, I suppose, so if the scooter is parked properly, then the photograph is logged. They're usually only retrieved when there is a complaint of such and maybe something of illegality. But those you do need to, before you can scan off, take a photo of where you've parked that scooter. So, but from a fine point of view, I don't believe Neuron or these commercial e-mobility companies have the ability to fine people.
Well,
State government
yeah,
would need that legislation in place for them to do that.
I think maybe we might need to have a talk about that, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, Councillor, questions to Greg, but if you want to go into debate, then we'll
Do it
that
later.
during the resolution.
Yeah.
So just for questions at the moment. So
Yeah.
if you're finished, then we'll move on. to
Just the
others.
one on Parkhurst, yeah, just a concern about there's a fabulous pathway there now going past the university, and I am a strong advocate for these scooters. I love them, and I'm a user of the scooters as well. I just also am very concerned about our community and the safety of the users as well. Travelling from Parkhurst across the Bruce Highway intersection there to the Yeppoon, I suppose it really again comes back to that rule that only over 18s should be using the Neuron scooters, and they should know their road rules and stop at the lights. But are there any extra measures that are put in place to, I suppose, encourage safe use in those high congestion areas?
Certainly, as I say, we could speak to Neuron and encourage them to put certain safety messages up. You're probably covering, the issues you're covering here are policing matters. And remember, these are legislated by state government and policed by the QPS. So I know where you're going, but council, under this permit, does not have that authority to police this behaviour. It's like we don't have the authority to police car behaviour either. We don't have it under this. So they aren't a registered vehicle, but they are from under state government legislation and policed by the QPS. So I know where you're going, and you probably are wanting me to answer your question, but I can't because it is a QPS matter.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and through to Greg. Greg, wow, time flies, 12 months, amazing, and it's been embraced by the community. Part of Neuron's suite of products is, along the e-scooters line, is also e-bikes. And with that, I mean, they look fantastic. I've seen them. And is there any indication that these additional 100 scooters may comprise of some of them, or if and when?
Councillors, the answer to that is we haven't consciously as a council chosen to go with bikes. So the answer is no at this stage, but if that is something you'd like us to canvass and bring a proposal to this chamber, I am more than happy to, probably back to Councillor Kirkland's previous concern. They are 3 times the size of a scooter, if not more, and a bike laying around can cause a lot more hazards. So certainly Lime bikes on the Gold Coast work very well. And Brisbane, I think, has the purple bikes, the Beam. I think it's Beam, but I could be wrong on that one. But yeah, they have them as well. So they are working very well down in southeast Queensland, but that would be a conscious decision for us. It would be, I would imagine, it may be an extension of this permit, John, but it may be a separate permit as well. It's something we could look at if that's something that's of interest to the chamber.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hutchin. Councillor Mathers.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor, through you to Greg, if that's all right. Morning, Greg. When I was reading this report, I'm glad you mentioned that, because the first thing I thought was, I know this was done by Neuron, but economic benefit of $66 per trip. I think those people would spend that money whether they're in a car or on a scooter. But to me, when I was reading it, the real economic benefit, tangible economic benefit, from what I can see, is the 25 jobs within the region, which is a fantastic thing. So that's, I just wanted to make that comment. But in regards to questions, the fee exemption that we're talking about through until the end of July, I think it is this year, for them to do that expansion. I just want to confirm that once that expansion is, or that test has been done, if they choose to go with that, the fee will then be reinstated for that other 100 scooters?
Yes,
is that correct?
That's my understanding, and John is nodding his head there, which is a positive. So the answer is yes, councillors.
Okay, so it's just us giving them the opportunity to trial it without the
Correct.
cost.
It's us. We've had probably less from Parkhurst, but we certainly, Gracemere, feel like they're missing out. So Councillor Smith, unfortunately, isn't here today. She may agree or disagree with that comment, but we've certainly had a lot of feedback from people saying, when can we get them in Gracemere? So,
Thank you.
So sorry, Greg, there's no definite whether it's Gracemere or Parkhurst. So
could be either. It's really up to Neuron. We're encouraging Gracemere, aren't we, Mary? So yeah, from that benefit.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you to Greg. I've never ridden on a Neuron e-scooter. I have ridden on e-scooters, but if I look at my bank account statement every month, our family is a supporter, and I think it's the wild little 12-year-old has worked out how good it is. From a divisional councillor...
He's got to be 18 to be using them.
I know. From a divisional councillor side of things, a couple of things that I've found. Neuron are very, very fast to act on complaints. Like all of us there will get complaints about them being left on footpaths or blocking driveways and different things like that. Within 2 hours of making a complaint, you actually get a message there to just say that has been rectified. I think that's one of the strong points, and probably the hardest thing was actually finding the complaints number at the start, but it may be helpful there if the councillors could get that just on our to put into our phone logs, because sometimes there it's really good if you can sort out a problem before the residents get too upset. But I used to have a lot of issues there in Dean Street, and but they have worked really well. The other side of it is the issues around Kershaw Gardens and those. Have they been eased up? Because I don't, on the walks there, I don't see that.
Yeah, so we've ring-fenced Kershaw Gardens now, and limited speeds in other areas as well. And you mentioned Dean Street, and that was good to see the expansion of the trial into that Frenchville and Bersiger area as well. But yeah, certainly we've ring-fenced areas and barred scooters from certain locations. So where we feel that is appropriate, we've acted fairly quickly, and as have Neuron. They've been very good to deal with on that front, John, haven't they? And from your first point of safety, and also we'll get that, Mary will send that number around to all councillors, so you have it. They have, with those 25 employees, and they work varying hours, but They all have a van or a ute, and they are driving around quite regularly. One, because they love to reposition them into areas where they know they'll get used, so the faster they can act on that, the better as well. Everything is GPS tracked, so they can find all these scooters along the way. So they tend not to sit somewhere, you know, laying down or such for too long. You will have occasions where that is a thing, so maybe that is, if you see it for a length of time, that is where you make the complaint.
Just one other comment. Probably the only place that I would have concerns is if it's expanded to Mount Archer and Hillbeen Drive. That was one area there. I know I raised that last year. Just that's one area.
Yes, councillors, probably to address that. I don't think Neuron will ever request that. The battery life is good on these, but as you go up hills, it really does chew battery life. And yes, I would agree with that. The going up part might be okay.
Going down.
Coming down, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You know, if we ever get, you know, and I'm deviating here, but if we ever get the e-scooter World Championships, maybe that is a request they might have, but I'm sure they'll have their own safety factors associated with that. But we'd love to see the Red Bull e-scooter championships coming down Mount Archer, I'm sure, from a professional event.
Thanks, Councillor Fisher. I wouldn't recommend it as a child. We used to often get the go-karts and come down Mount Archer. Always fraught with danger and an accident at the end. Anyway, Greg, look, the questions I had, and it was great going to the end because a lot of those questions came out that I had, and it was probably just about the fee waiver and that it was only for that period and then it'd work back there. The other question was around our first report when we began the trial. There was 15 staff put into that one. So how has it jumped to 25, and is that including the extension to Livingston?
Yes, it's a regional number, that number, but also they have taken on more people here as they've realised. Remember they expanded into that Bersica-Frenchville area. They needed more people to service the area as well. So okay. As we expand areas, hopefully we expand the number of employees as well.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Greg. And how can we, if there are problems that continue, or there are issues that arise, are we able to have that engagement with them? Like sure. I'd hate to see a trial period and then all of a sudden there's you know, they relax in some areas and then we've got a greater problem than what we're at. Is there a way that we can...
Through us, through John.
Engagement?
Yeah, through John and Mary and I, you know, these two stay engaged with Neuron on a regular basis, have their monthly meetings, but John would have engagement as required, of course, on any enforcement or safety issues. That's paramount, like I say, and I do reinforce that Neuron, I've worked with most of these e-mobility companies,
yep.
and I do find Neuron, one, most reactive, but also most focused on safety. They know this is, you know, we're hearing it around this table, they know how important it is to cities and regions for that to be a safe mode. Otherwise, they lose it. They lose the contract, and they don't come for a short time. They want to be here forever. Mm.
Did you have a further question, Councillor?
Yes. Yeah, Mr Mayor, if you don't mind. Sorry, it just popped into my head before. I'm just following on from what Councillor Fisher was saying. As a divisional councillor, I did just notice a question through to Greg or maybe Mary or John, I'm not sure, in regards to, I noticed that they expanded from Dean Street to Tosit Road, but there's nothing east of Tosit Road, so the Coongal, eastern part of Coongal can't use the e-scooters. I'm just wondering if there's any plans of expanding into that area in the near future.
It really comes down to number of scooters that can service the areas. They do a lot of these studies, they do a lot of their heat mapping, and I suppose they could cover the whole region but they sort of make those decisions as they go and watch those demands and the usage. So if they see a whole lot of parking at that border, they might come to us and say, hey, probably this is a good thing. So, you know, the university was the same. In that last extension into Bersica and Frenchville, we also extended right up to the boundary of the university for that reason as well, because people just wanted to go there, and you could see them parking as close as they could, but they weren't making that trip. So to answer your question, the answer is no plans at this stage. They're very interested in Gracemere and Parkhurst, but they will make those calls and speak to John along the way and make those requests. And if we feel that they're an easy fix, then we'll approve that. If it's something that needs to come here, we'll bring it here.
Oh, that's fair enough. Yeah. Mr Mayor, yeah, because all I wanted to say is I know when they bordered it with Dean Street, you saw a lot of scooters parked on Dean Street. Yeah. Now that they've bordered it on Tosit Road, you see quite a few scooters sitting on Tosit Road because they're riding as far as they can and then walking the other way.
And Councillor, it does come down to number of scooters that can service a per square metre or per square kilometre type thing, but also from a staffing point of view. The wider that area they have to service from a staffing point of view, the more likely you're going to have them laying around because they can't service the wider areas quickly. So I know in Brisbane we went from 750 to 1,500 so that we could service all those additional suburbs. So.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Councillor Mathers. Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Earlier on I did question the survey that the proponent had done, obviously with a grain of salt, it's their own survey, but was reassured that we had a copy of the actual survey to come back. But just listening around the table, just to make a point that we make our decisions here based on the information in reports. It needs to be more clear what the information relates to. If they're talking about economic benefit, well, we want to know what's the benefit to us here, the number of uses, the number of spends or whatever. It might have been more transparent if it was made clear that that's a statewide rather than what's benefit for us. Like, I support the scooters, absolutely, I think it's great,
Yeah.
but we have to be sure or have some surety that the information that we're basing our decisions on is what affects us here, not Livingston or Brisbane or Sydney or whatever. So just to make that point. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you, Councillor, and that's point taken. Mary and I chatted about that this morning, and certainly point taken. Next time we bring a report here, we will be very clear on that. So yes, that was a user survey. So yeah.
Thanks very much, Councillor Wickerson. Councillor Kirkland.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just what your commentary triggered, and I was able to get my computer open as well, a final question around the geofencing, I should say, geofencing, and if there's a capacity for council to come back if we find that there's a repeated number of complaints from a particular area, can we just say, righto, well, clearly, because I've heard of users that, for example, use the scooter every day to go from their house to their point of employment, and their scooter is one of the ones that's just dumped on the road all the time. So is it that you can geocortex somehow to prevent that, geofence to protect that from happening? Is that a directive that council can give?
Councillors, I might look at it a different way, Councillor Kirkland and councillors, is I would look at it if we see that some sort of repeated behaviour, we more, through John, we approach the scooter company to monitor that for us and try and fix the problem rather than just eliminate it initially. So, of course, the council can direct us and John through us to go and geofence an area. Okay, there's no doubt about that, but I would look at it more that positive front. If we see a problem area, let's work with the proponent and see if we can actually solve the problem by education and other means rather than just eliminate it.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
And you can use the Kershaw Gardens as an example. We had problems there, so they just fenced it off, and same thing. But if it's in a neighbourhood, then it's probably given that they'd talk to the proponents and find out what the problem is and try and resolve it without having to go into that detail. Okay, I think we've exhausted the questions on this one, Greg. We might seek a mover in a second with regards to the officer's recommendation. Move Councillor Latcham, seconded Councillor Rutherford. Speakers for the motion? Speakers against? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much, Greg. Moving on to 11.2, the sole provider provisions for the Rockhampton Museum of Art. Good morning, Jonathan. Or, if you'd like to present your report.
It's off. How's that? Better. So in summary, basically I've got here the rest of the year's worth of fees relating to exhibition programming, performances, workshops and so forth. So this details the number of specialised and sole suppliers required to supply exhibition content and physical production. Council approval is sought to deem the nominated suppliers as specialised or sole suppliers in accordance with S235A and B of the local government regulation. So basically we've got the list for the rest of the year here. Some of them, you'll see them right at the bottom of the list. They've been approved previously. Everything else is more recently added to that list. So I've just got as the recommendation, pardon me, the council approves the use of nominated suppliers as specialised or sole suppliers to supply productions, exhibitions and services detailed in this report. Obviously, very happy to clarify any particular questions you might have around any of those.
Okay, thanks very much, Jonathan. Firstly, I'll go to the portfolio spokesperson, Councillor Wickerson, Councillor Atcham, Councillor Kirkland and Councillor Rutherford. I think it's Councillor Wickerson.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Through you to Jonathan. Great to see this, Jonathan. It's sort of the nature of the beast that in the arts world or even the theatre world, that it's not something you can tender for because it's so unique and it's the provision of it. So that's great to see, and good to see so much diversity there as well. The only question I had, councillors will note that some of the names with asterisks are people that work for the council, but I'm
Yes.
sure and confident that we've had this chat before, that the right processes have been
That's right.
followed there, so there's no conflicts and so forth. But the only question I had, Bill Yaxley, or William Yaxley, I think it's on there, previously had, I'm not sure if it was a scholarship or an artist in residence fee. I was lucky enough a number of years ago now when we went to China. I think he was based in China doing a workshop. So this is in addition to that. It's not
That's
not
right.
double dipping, is it?
No, that was a separate project. It was an artist residency. This is a collection-based exhibition, so that will be in the collection space. Bill will be showing a small selection of new work, and co-curating with our team works from the collection of his own, as well as people he's had a strong historical relationship with. So a lot of other artists of the CQ region. So I'm really looking forward to that one.
Okay, me too. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks very much, Councillor Wickerson. Councillor Atcham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and through to Jonathan. Jonathan, I've got a couple of quick questions.
Sure.
The first one's probably a simple one. William Yaxley, there's an artist fee for him, but further down on that list, there's a Bill Yaxley. Is that one and the same?
Same person, yes.
That's what I thought, but I just wanted to clarify. Secondly, there's no mentions of dollar signs at all on any of these, so I kind of would like to have seen that. But
Sure.
in particular, are the artist fees the same or are they varied?
We have a consistent method of calculating the artist fee according to the space. So you can, as a councillor, you can always assume if you're seeing a group exhibition in the downstairs space, each artist will be getting the same fee no matter the exhibition, or a solo show, that's a different figure because it's a lot more work. And that's consistent throughout all of the spaces. So if you see somebody in a particular space, you'll always know that they're getting the same fee as somebody else has. The occasional differences are only ever when it's not funded by us. A good example of that is the Luke Roberts exhibition, which is scheduled for next year. That one's funded by Arts Queensland, and so the fee is a bit different to ours. So actually, in the end, I think it is the same fee in the end, but that's the only possible variation to that if it's not funded by us.
Okay, thank you. Another question, if I may. So obviously it fits within the yearly budget that Council signed off on. The artist fee I get, the prize money for winning artists I get, the touring exhibition fee I get. What I probably don't get, and I probably need some guidance on this, consultation fee. Is that realistically within the realm of Museum of Art? Is that what we're about?
It's a rare occasion that we would pay a fee such as that, but it does come up on occasion. I think we only have one of those.
Only one, yes.
Yeah. So that one, I think, is more to do with... So we've got the Dee Harding installation, which you would know in the main foyer. This is about working with Durrumbal Enterprises as well as some of the local groups to further that. So it's a consultation fee, but it does that. This is how we're going to keep extending that work and add to it. So basically what that means is Dee will be working and overseeing with different artists to add to that mural. So just to be more specific, perhaps maybe we need a different terminology than consultation. It probably has a very specific meaning to the councillors, but that's essentially what it is.
That's okay. Like I just said, to get more clarification on what that was, whether that fits within the scope of what the Museum of Art is about. The last question, if I may, is more about, I think I've lost it now. Sorry, is I know with a lot of other assistance programs we have, there's normally, it's listed if they had been previous recipients of finance or monies or grants or whatever from the council. Is that something, just like that one was, where that person had got money previously, and obviously there's probably a whole list of them on there that possibly were recipients of previous years. Should that be also in the report as well, or possibly in the future?
We could do that if that's of interest, yeah, certainly.
Just give some background to what we've been, the council's
Sure.
commitment to that person has been.
Yeah, perhaps another column with a few notes on each project and any sort of background like that wouldn't be a problem at all.
So
Thank you.
Sorry if I put through the chair, we probably could include that within the body of the actual report, not so much the resolution. So, yeah.
Councillor Kirkland and Councillor Rutherford.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Because I wasn't familiar with a great deal of the works, or the artists, I should say, and the installations and etc., the exhibitions that they're wanting to bring to the gallery, I took it upon myself to painstakingly go through and learn a little bit about the artists. I found that a good experience, but I also came across some of what will be in the gallery, I expect, in an M-rated capacity. My question to you is, Jonathan, with those, is there some way of with our visitors being told that there are 18 plus, over 18s or under 18s need to be accompanied by a parent or something? There is some artistry in here that's, I expect some of their pieces will be somewhat M-rated.
Which ones were you referring to, just so I'm up to speed? Well, he's not on
That
here.
would be
He's already,
Cutler-
he's for next year.
Burdekin from Burdekin Studios works
Oh,
by
okay.
Cutler Footway.
Well, I will say we work very closely with the artists in the selection of work, including Cutler
So you
Footway.
can choose what pieces go in?
That's right. In the case of him specifically, we've very carefully looked at all of the work, and I don't feel that there'll be anything that might be offensive or particularly. What we-
And I get that that's going to happen. I think my main
Sure.
concern is that people aren't going to go into what they feel is going to potentially be offensive to their children.
Sure. What we do in circumstances like that is we do have signage. If we're a bit worried about something being a surprise to somebody, we do have signage suggesting that a work is... We do this with matters of photosensitivity as well. If there's ever a work that we think could be taken as politically incendiary in any way, we might have a sign ahead of the exhibition, just sort of warning patrons of that. In the case of Cutler Footway, we're confident that we may not need to do that, but it's, you know, this is something we can look at if it's of concern. So far, we've not had any particular issues. I do tend to... John wants to say
Look
something.
like
I
John's-
do tend to consult with John and Alicia on these matters ahead of time so that we're not taken by surprise with anything. But
Yeah.
John?
Jonathan might be able to give us an update on that.
Yeah, through the chair, we have already looked at that, and I've given some feedback on that particular artist already. So the process and the policy that I take for presenting works that might be of an adult or a confronting, possibly not a political nature, my view is that what we should be doing is always warning and giving the people visiting the opportunity to decide if they want to go in or not. So that's a really strong tenet of mine. I don't believe that we, other than certainly particular extreme things, I don't think we or the council table necessarily want to be within censorship, but we certainly shouldn't be surprising people, and that's sort of the expectation which I work with the team with.
That's really good to hear. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Kirkland. Councillor Rutherford.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And Jonathan, can I just pick up on something you said before I
Sure.
ask some questions? The Dee Harding composition I thought was ephemeral.
That's right.
So
So
it's not, you said it was adding to that?
That's right. So it's always been a goal of that project to engage with some of the Durrumbal artists in consultation with Dee and working on extending some of those. There are actually some sections on the lower part of the mural that are specifically set aside for extending so that we get some local artistic voices adding to the mural. It does have a sort of a time span. We're looking forward to looking at replacing it with a different commissioning collective commission in 2025, mid-2025. So it does have a lifespan, and then we'll be moving on to another one, if that makes sense.
Yes, I didn't realise it was that long. I thought it was a 12-month.
Alicia?
Sure.
No, you're fine. A couple of things with that. So it was always intended that those artworks be added to by the local artists, and that's been reported previously, but was a particular decision of this council to extend that time frame out for that ephemeral art piece because of the investment into that. So that was sort of what we came up with previously. Certainly when we've worked through, yeah.
I don't remember that either.
Sorry, Councillor Rutherford?
Sorry, I don't remember that either, actually. So.
Okay, we might need
but
to
anyway,
talk about that separately to this report. I think that's something that we can discuss in after this meeting. Thanks, Jonathan. Councillor Rutherford.
I was just hoping that you could help me understand just some of these, please. The artist educator, what does that actually entail?
Most often those are workshops in specific skills or art forms. So we had one just this Saturday, which was on silversmithing. So we had a specific practitioner in to teach those skills that we don't have as
And
a
that's
staff.
open to the public?
Yes,
Yep.
yes, that's right.
Yep. Okay, thank you. And then probably my question, the touring exhibition fees, that's cover costs to get it here?
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
So did we receive exhibition fees for the our cream collection?
Yeah, I wasn't here when that project was
No, I
happening, but if it went by the usual ways these things go, yes, each venue would have paid a fee to get that exhibition, and they would have paid for one leg of freight, usually to their venue, and then the subsequent venues pay the subsequent legs. So that's usually the way it works.
Thank you. And then just I know it's a very large gallery, then this seems quite a list. Do we save space for our own collection? And the reason I raise this is when we talked about the art gallery, we talked about it to be able to put our own collection on display. So are we still going through along those lines? Yes.
Yeah. We always have a collection exhibition up. So the upstairs space closest to the river, that's a dedicated collection space. We will always have a curated collection experience in there. So we have just hung our 5th collection-based exhibition up there. Looks great. And of course, collection items will often show up in other spaces as well and other exhibitions. But that's one thing we can always say definitively, there will always be collection items up. That was actually a part of the condition of funding as well. But even aside from that, we don't look at it like some sort of prescription that we have to do. We're very excited to be coming up with new ways of looking at CQ heritage and CQ history here.
And Mr. Mayor, can I just add, I love the variety that's been at the gallery since it's been opened. I like that, you know, there may be some parts that you don't necessarily catch your attention, other parts you can spend a long time, you know, just depending on what your taste is. So,
yeah,
congratulations on
Thank you very much.
the variety that's been there so far.
Thank you very much. That's lovely feedback.
Thanks very much, Jonathan and Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Mathers.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to make a quick comment, if that's all right, through to Jonathan. Jonathan, as we know, the art gallery was maybe a little bit divisive when money was spent and, you know, it was decided to be built, and there was quite a few comments out there.
Sure.
You know, I've heard still a few negative comments about that, but I always say to the people, have you been there? Have you gone and had a look? And those people that have been negative haven't stepped foot in there yet. I just want to say congratulations, because everyone that I have spoken to that has been in there at some period of time, I haven't had a negative comment. Haven't had a bad thing said. The only negativity I've heard have been from the people that haven't stepped foot in there. So I think you're doing a great job, and keep it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll acknowledge those comments as well. I think it's a great facility and really paying dividends now. So Jonathan, looks like we've exhausted all the questions, so thank you for that report. Could I seek a mover and a seconder with regards as the Chair? Councillor Wickerson, seconded Councillor Kirkland. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much for that report, Jonathan. We'll move on to our next item, councillors. 11.3, the quote for consideration plan for the retail store stockies for the Museum of Art. And again, Jonathan, while you're there.
So this is quite a simple one. In summary, the purpose of this report is to seek approval under Section 230 of the Local Government Regulation Act 2012 for the ongoing purchase of stock for the operations of the retail store at the Rockhampton Museum of Art. It is the officer's recommendation that Council receives this report for the preparation and adoption of the quote consideration plan for the purchase of unique goods from various vendors to be sold at the Rockhampton Museum of Art retail store. So, in summary, we've got a list of new vendors here that we haven't stocked before. So we're just looking to have the ability to purchase work by them. I'll add too that we have about 75% Queensland content, and of that 75%, nearly half of it is CQ content. So, and we hope to increase that number as time goes by.
Thanks, Jonathan. Probably just a question though myself is, the previous stock, has that sold, and was there a return on that?
Yeah, we've been doing quite well. We're just under $100,000 gross since we launched in February. Actually, that may be a conservative figure, but that's last time I checked. So it's doing very well. Most of the things we have stocked have sold. There are a couple of previous regime, let's say, stock items that we're still working on, but some of those were bought in very, very big quantities. So basically the way I look at it is each time we sell something, there's a learning from that. Obviously, if something's not selling so well, we steer toward things that are doing better. The wonderful thing about the shop is we have a very clear outcome, whether it's selling or not, which is a lot easier sometimes than visual art itself. So that's a really clear mandate from our patrons and our customers. So we definitely take things like that on board very seriously.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan. Again, the spokesperson, Councillor Wickerson, Councillor Kirkland and Councillor Mathers.
Oh, thanks, Mayor. Just read to Jonathan. The only flaw with where the shop is at the moment, and we should have picked this up at the design stage, it is sort of tucked away. You have to sort of go down the side of where the entrance desk is, I guess. Generally the rule with a museum or gallery is you always have your patrons go out through the gift shop on the way out, and we sort of missed that opportunity. So I was pleased to see the other day some of that stock has been moved out into the foyer part.
That's right.
Is that going to be a permanent feature, and can we enhance that to make it look a bit more?
That's the plan. Yeah, we had a few learnings over Christmas, so we had an extra table worth of stock, a bit more front and centre, which did very, very well and led people into the shop. So where we've purchased some specifically built shelving for that area, and we do plan on making that a permanent feature to sort of draw people in a little more. So hopefully those numbers will improve.
Yeah, no, look forward to seeing the increase in that. But yeah, great work. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Councillor Wickerson. Councillor Kirkland.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Jonathan, I really like your approach and, you know, the way that you put us at ease as to how you're going to approach the continued purchasing of stock as well as monitoring of the sales and that sort of thing. I see here in your quote consideration plan that part of the consideration is price. I've been to the shop a number of times and thought, oh, I think I might buy something today, and then my pocket says, yeah, no, how about you leave? Because it is high end. And I'm wondering whether you are going to move towards having options available, because this is for a different price bracket. And the reason I say that is this art gallery is going to be visited by school students and certainly a whole range of different socioeconomic positions, you know, within the community. And I would hope that there is an opportunity for everyone to take a piece of the art gallery or a memory from the art gallery home with them. At the moment, with the stock that's there, I couldn't find anything in my budget, so I would hope that that's a consideration, is it?
I can partly explain that because there's a few factors that might play into that. One is that some of the prices are not determined by the artisans, but they have some sort of an influence on it. So, you know, some things that are made at a certain rate, we need to mark them up in order to make that competitive. I will say we do try to cater for some more affordable things. The big problem, and this is a good problem to have, is that it walks out the door very, very quickly, which is wonderful. The other thing that influences this a little bit is we try to avoid doubling up with other providers around our region. So there's a lot of stock, about 80% of the stock we have, you can't find elsewhere in Rockhampton, in Yeppoon, anywhere in CQ. So it's sort of balancing those two things, but certainly we do try to, I'll take that on board, because some things we think are going to be hit, they're gone in literally days. So it's sort of trying to find that right price point, but your point is definitely well taken. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, John.
It's a juggling act.
It is. It's a
Thanks
good
very
problem
much.
to have, though.
Yes, that's right, it is. Thanks very much for that report, Jonathan. I think we've exhausted the questions. So, again, I'll seek the Chair's spokespersons to move. Seek a seconder. Councillor Rutherford. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Move on to 11.4, the Enterprise Risk Management Policy Framework. And ask Kassan to present that report, please.
Good morning, Mayor and Councillors. Presented to you today are the reviewed ERM, Enterprise Risk Management Policy, and Enterprise Risk Management Framework documents. These two documents were originally presented to Audit and Business Improvement Committee on the 24th of November for their consideration and recommendation for Council to adopt them. The Audit and Business Improvement Committee requested that the documents reflect the 2019 standard version and then be presented to Council for adoption. Having re-reviewed the documents to reflect the Audit and Business Improvement Committee's request, these documents are now presented to Council for their consideration and adoption. Happy to take any questions.
Councillors, questions? Kassan. We don't often get that, a lot of no questions, but this is important framework for the organisation to make sure that we're covering our risk exposure and how we manage that going forward. So this is part of our remit, is to make sure that we have these policies in place to be able to manage that going forward. We have a couple of lights now that I mentioned that. So,
I was just going to say I apologise for the amount of reading that was in the agendas, but for transparency we wanted to show what had gone to Audit Committee and the changes that was consequently made. So
yeah.
Apologise for the extra reading.
No, that's all right. Thanks very much, Kassan. I've got a couple of lights, so Councillor Latcham, then Councillor Kirkland.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, just to comment, just to say that it's great that Kassan's gone to the extra effort to update this to the latest version, and I know there was only slight modifications to it, but it's an important one that we're up with the latest versions, and has done a very good job on getting us up to date on that one, and so I'm very supportive of this.
Okay, thanks very much, Shane. Councillor Kirkland.
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, just a comment, no questions, and it's along the same lines as Councillor Latcham. The Audit Committee external members pointed out something and suggested that this might be something we might want to do, and Council has adopted that to have it updated to the 2018. I think you said 2019 a minute ago. It's 2018, is it? So congratulations, and I think it's a really good thing to have this enterprise risk management policy reflecting the latest guidelines for us. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Kirkland. Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through you to Kassane. Great report, Kassane, and yes, a fair bit of reading in there. On page 25, as it is in our agenda, under scope, just curious, and could you explain why is it crossed out? So it's under two purposes, I should say, that it doesn't align with Council's strategic and operational objectives. So that just caught me off guard a little bit. Is that to do with... Oh, sorry.
My page numbering's not your page numbering, sorry.
Under purpose here, where it says align with Council's strategic and operational objectives, is struck out on the marked up plan, the track changes plan.
Yes.
Is that really to accommodate some flexibility in the rest?
Yes. So yes, so that's been crossed out, but the overarching scope and of risk management is to help you achieve your objectives. That's the whole purpose behind doing risk management. So it was a bit, I suppose, superfluous to have that in there.
Okay.
Does that help? We were trying to, some of the feedback that was given from an audit that we had on risk management by leadership team was they wanted it to be a bit more concise. So we tried to cut out some of the verboseness, I suppose.
Yeah, I understand. Yep. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kassane. It's good to be nimble and on your feet. Move to answer that question, so no, appreciate that. We have now exhausted all the lights for the question, so could I seek a mover and a seconder? Move Councillor Latcham, seconded Councillor Kirkland. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. I'd just like to say thanks, Kassane and John, for the work that you do in that space. It is important. It's not the one that gets the headlines, but it's the ones that we need to keep the organisation risk-free and as we move forward in these challenging times. So thank you again for your work that you do. Thank you. Okay, Dirk, and Councillor Latcham and Kirkland, that part of that committee oversight of that as well. So thank you. Moving on to 11.5, Councillors, 22-23 Operational Plan Quarterly Report, second for the proposed amendments of 22-23 Operational Plan, and I'll hand over to Shannon. Thanks, Shannon. Just as equally important as getting these updates to the organisation as well. So thank you.
Good morning, Mayor and Councillors. This report is presenting Council's Operational Plan Progress Report for the Quarter 2, 22-23, which ended 31st December 2022. Council's familiar with the usual format of the report. The report provides a commentary and summary in relation to the key focus areas in the operational plan, as well as updates on the major capital projects. Table contained in the attachment sets out the operational plan action and target, with the traffic light system showing whether the target is not on track, watching on track or completed. In addition, the report also seeks the Council adoption of the proposed amendments to the 2022-23 operational plan detailed within the report and in attachment 2. The format of this presentation this morning will be similar to previous reports, with the leadership team presenting on their areas. Firstly, I'll call on Ross to provide an overview of the Corporate Services Department.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and Councillors. From the corporate services perspective this quarter, it's been pretty, I guess, standard quarter. It's been a lot of positivities have come out of it. There's also some challenges. Some things I just want to highlight quickly. As our key statistics, our customer calls answered within the customer service charter have actually beaten the 75%, which is actually good. Been a first time we've met that mark for a while, so that's good for that quarter. The lost time injuries, which is quite an important one. We do have a swathe of other measures we have, which is reported monthly. This is one of the key ones, which the lost time injuries, touch wood, 1 injury is too much, I know that, but we have a target of 35 and we have 8 at the end of the quarter, so hopefully we don't have any more, but it is tracking better than previously. Our suppliers are being paid within trading terms. We set a pretty high target at 90%, we've achieved 91%, and our top 100 suppliers under contract, we have a target of 90%. We're nearly all of our top 100 suppliers are under contract, so that's good. I won't go into budget. We have had reports to budget, and we do have another further information coming in that regard later on, so I won't go into too much there. Some of the target progresses, we do have one particular item that's not on track. We are seeking an extension for that particular action as part of this report. We do have some that we are watching, and we will continue to watching that. The other pleasing one we have was I go to the airport. Now, we do notice our operating revenue is up quite high, and it's actually looking quite positive. Our passenger numbers are good, strong, revenue is strong, and expenses are being contained. So that's been a very, and with further information on that later on today as well. One issue in there, once you will see, is the bird strikes. We are just on target with that, and we are noted that they are predominantly the flying fox or the bats that are the main issue there. So other than that, Mr Mayor, I'm not sure if there's any questions on the corporate service area or whether you want to wait till the end.
Councillor Rutherford, a question there to Ross.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Probably just the bird strikes and
Yeah.
the note that it's bats. I'm just wondering whether we should actually have bird bat strike so that the word bat or flying fox is actually in there so that, you know, we can highlight to other levels of government that it's a significant issue.
Yeah. And to the side, I think we're writing another letter to the government from the Mayor's office to look at that funding to help with that problem.
Yeah, because unless you actually then read comments, it doesn't highlight that. So
data.
I did put that in and wondered. Now the other one was the hazard inspections are significant lower. What risk is that to us? You know, is that where they go and look at whether there's a bolt on the runway or?
Yeah, that's through the chair. No, it's not that particular level. It's more, it's our workplace health and safety issues that we do. That one particular one wasn't completed. It was done, I think, a week or two later, so that's sort of completed now. It'll be things like our storage sheds and those sort of stuff, make sure all our stuff's contained appropriately. And we have a whole series, we have a program, an annual program, the whole organisation has, so we have deadlines there to be done, and that one's just missed the deadline to be done, but yeah, it's not the external sort of stuff.
Okay. Mr Mayor, the other thing I did notice, which may or may not, I don't know how other people would have seen it, but so for Q2, if I look at that one as an example, Ross, the hazard inspections, so the first quarter was 100%. Our year-to-date actual is 90%, but Q2 is the 80%. Now, 90% is not that bad, 80% probably is. So how do we then trigger, if something has dropped dramatically in a quarter, how does that trigger as an important issue to look at rather than it just be diluted because another quarter has made it seem okay?
So every month a series of reports comes out to all the managers and the leadership team. Those managers and leadership team members review that. I also take a very big keen interest, particularly around hazard inspections and hazard reporting, because that's the lead part of the indicator of workplace health and safety. If I believe there's something not quite right broadly, message does go out there to pick our game up broadly on that one. If there's individual areas, then I ask the question, what's going on over there that we need to address? So it's actually done on a monthly basis. We're not waiting for each quarter to take action. It's done on a monthly basis.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of the general managers and managers perform or co-perform some of those hazardous inspections as well. Because I think recently Peter did Mount Morgan sewage treatment plant or water treatment plant. He went up there. I do the workshop on an annual basis. So I do that. So.
All right.
Okay,
Thanks,
Councillor
Mr.
Rutherford.
CEO. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thanks, Ross. Councillor Fisher, Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, Ross kind of stole my thunder, but I was going to sort of just raise that we always had so much faith in the airport returning to those numbers, and the signs were even 12 months, 18 months out that things were looking quite bright. So it's quite good to go into those figures. I'd also like to comment, I like what Councillor Rutherford said of having the bat strikes with that. I'd even like to sort of see the separation, bat strikes and bird strikes, because we're doing a really good job in management of for the bird strikes, and we at the airport we do and have got that management of the grass verges around the runways and that space to where it's high enough there that you're not having the raptors wanting to sort of poach and go sort of prey on smaller rodents and other things, but low enough that it's also not a problem. So I think that's been many years in the process, but they're doing that really well. And I think sometimes must be disheartening because they see the strike still up, but I think that separation would actually give a completely different figure. And the other one that I'd like to raise is maybe this year we might be able to invite the councillors on the FOB inspection of the runway, because it's actually a really good understanding of what is looked for when those little pieces that go, the jet blasts and that can blow across the runway that are potential risks. And it might be a really good thing to invite all the councillors out. They have a day where the airport staff and everybody goes for a walk along the runway. So
yeah, I'm not sure, Councillor, we might be a problem ourselves on the runway.
Oh, no, the runway is closed, but it's actually...
No, I get it. It was only tongue-in-cheek, but yeah, we'll see that one go. But thanks for those comments, Councillor Fisher. Councillor Rutherford, did you want to make another question?
How do you get rid of one council in one hit? Mr. Mayor, I was just... I had another thing marked, and it was to comment on the return of good numbers through the airport, which is fantastic to see. But I would like to, at some point, delve into that a little bit deeper, if we could, at another time, about, you know, the return of those numbers, but also how our numbers have increased in comparison to other airports, because you do hear of other airports that are now having bumper passenger numbers come through, certainly, you know, bigger increases than even pre-COVID. So as, I guess, the Board of Directors of the airport, it would be good to have a little deeper dive into that as well.
Yeah, good point. Councillor,
Yep.
oh, sorry. Ross?
Yeah, through the Chair. Councillors, we do intend in the next, I'm not sure, the next meeting or the meeting after, bring in confidential session a proposal to Council, and on a particular matter, and also as part of that, or a separate item, to give, I think it's time to give an update on all that sort of stuff at airport that's been ticking along, and now it's because we're starting to see, right, this is starting to form now, where the numbers are coming, so we need to bring this and probably some more regular board type information back to Council to it'd be commercial in confidence, most of it, to update Council where things are going.
Yeah. That may be on the airport up in the office, out there, the boardroom. Get an update on that if we're able to do that, or would it need to be a Council meeting name?
Through here, yeah, I'd still do it through Council, yeah.
Okay, no worries. Thanks, Ross. Councillor Kirkland, question?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just coming off the back of Councillor Rutherford's request to have the bat strikes and normal bird strikes separated. I know that I asked for that a couple of years ago, so I'm just wondering whether that could be formalised rather than just requesting it at the table and it not happening again. Is there a way to formalise and say that that definitely will happen in the next report?
Councillor Kirkland, I can't recall, but apparently Councillor Kirkland's asked for that to be separated previously, so it hadn't occurred. So she's asking, can it be formally acknowledged to separate those?
Yes.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah. We can only best, sorry, I'm sorry, but couldn't pick up hearing, but we can only best tell some of the birds, we can't pick them all up, we can only pick up what we can.
So why not say that when Councillor Rutherford has suggested that it would be a good idea to separate them?
No.
What did you do? Same line.
Councillor Fisher said to separate it, yeah.
Right, right.
There are sort of some you do know, like I can remember the embarrassing moment when the brand new Dreamliner of Air New Zealand came in and Flying Fox decided to bounce off it, so...
Okay.
Okay, yeah. I think we capture the sentiment there.
Thanks,
Ross, so can we grab in as much data as we can in the future reports? Thank you. Okay, thanks very much, Ross, for that report. I'll hand back to Shannon, who will ask the next committee, and that'll be Alicia.
Thank you, Ross. I'll now call on Peter to give an update for regional services.
Morning, Mayor and councillors. Okay, quarter two. Overall, regional services, the sections have performed very well in quarter two. The capital budget, as at December, was 25 million. And whilst that might sound a little bit behind, as I've explained, we are out to tender for around about $100 million worth of work, and we are phasing that capital program as we speak. So in the coming weeks you'll see that program revised, where a substantial amount, off the top of my head, in the order of 20 million will be reprogrammed across to the next year and the year after, as we know the timing of those big projects. On the big projects, Glenmore Water Treatment Plant remains to become, I'll say it's a difficult, challenging project. There's supply issues, there's many of the products are international, which has caused delays. The project is planned to be completed December 23, and we've expended about 5 to 6 million to date. The major work at the moment is the filter replacement, which we highlighted to you. Filter number 9 is offline at the moment. It's the first filter to be trialled, and they will continue to replace these filters right from now through to next summer. North Rocky Sewage Treatment Plant, the process train, the new one is underway. That's all on schedule. We've spent around 12 million on the project to date, and other than some supply issues that have been addressed, there's no risks other than when we get towards the end of the project where we talk about licensing requirements, but we'll talk to that when that's more defined. Mount Morgan Pool, so design and construct tender package was completed and tender evaluation is underway in quarter 3, so it's underway now. The other major ones I'll highlight is the development of the long-term water supply strategy for Rockhampton and Gracemere. Similarly, went out to tender in Q2 and it's being evaluated, has been evaluated and is awarded in quarter 3. So that work will start now. I think the deadline in the op plan, off the top of my head, is December 23. It will be more likely March 24 before that's completed. Okay. Waste performance plan. Waste has hit all the financial and non-financial performance targets in its plan. There's been a significant effort and continues in this development of a CQ regional waste plan. It's a bit like herding cats, but we will get there. It's a very difficult task to get a regional plan that's signed off by all parties. We highlighted recently to you the FOGO trial ended successfully, and we presented the business case. The major projects in waste are Cell C, which is the tender process for the new cell, and the Gracemere Waste Transfer Station, which is under construction at the moment. Also in the op plan, you'll see in the front section, we've done a lot of community education and engagement on waste over the quarter. So there's been a lot of work in a whole range of stakeholders, which has, as you know, we are on this fairly big journey to try and educate our community on waste and recycling. And it's complicated, but we've got to try and make it simple and get it out to as many people as we can. Okay. FRW Performance Plan. 19 of the 22 customer service standards were met, 3 were not. I can summarise it all in one issue: resources. We've had a number of actors and staff movements, and we have had difficulty in recruiting some key trades. We've been advertising for plumbers for over a year. So we are taking steps to address that at the moment. Things have improved a little bit for us, and now with the manager in place, there's a focus on getting that right resourcing so that we can meet those targets. Importantly, the performance targets for drinking water were 100%. So all the legislation and guidelines around those targets are on track. In terms of infrastructure, 2 important ones. North Rockhampton Flood Backflow Prevention Project. All the sewage infrastructure has been completed. We have some roads that we need to construct that intersect with Queensland Rail. So we have to get some approvals of Queensland Rail, which will delay the project slightly, probably till about July next year. The last one I'm going to highlight is Mount Morgan number 7 Dam Emergency Action Plan. It was action within the op plan. We have been able to get it approved by the regulator for a period of the next 3 years. So that plan is locked in place, which is all about knowing and how to respond to any overflows over that dam or dam failures. And that's all I'm going to highlight. Any questions?
Thanks very much for that, Peter. Yes, we're not immune to the skill shortages in our own workforce and the problems that creates. A couple of lights on. I'll go to Councillor Rutherford and then Councillor Mathers.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and I preface what I'm about to say acknowledging what you've just said, and Peter, that, you know, skill shortages are an issue. However, I do know that our response times, I note that our response times, both for sewage and water, has been as low as 68% in the second quarter, and sitting around those, you know, low 70%, which, you know, after 6 months, I think it's a red flag for us to go, well, what do we do here? How long do we leave them sit at that level before we need to consider doing something differently? And I'm just wondering whether it's possible, given that Peter's made the note that, you know, we've got a new manager and things are slowly changing, whether this is something that we can have a look at, not wait for another quarter before we look at this, that we look at it a bit more frequently, I guess, until we can see some sort of change in the system. Is it a matter of, do we have to contract something out at the moment while we can't?
Yeah, I'll ask Peter to respond to that firstly, and then...
That's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are bringing in contract plumbers and others to actually fill the gaps.
Yeah, which is great to hear. While we can't meet, you know, what I think would be, you know, fairly fair response rates, and I don't think that 68-70% is an acceptable response rate for sewage and water.
Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. And Peter's response there is something there that they're working to try to resolve as quickly as possible, but using that contract, I'm sure they're probably difficult to engage as well. I'm sure they're out in the open market would be hard to get that type of skills as well.
Through the Mayor, I'm happy to bring back a report on how this is going. So not wait for Q3, but in the Infrastructure Committee, we can talk about how we've gone in that space. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Peter. Councillor Mathers.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Through you to Peter. Peter, in regards to FRW, was saying that one of the couple of filters, or one of the filters, are offline. Just wondering, how's it looking with the one that's been emptied? I know, we're concerned about some of that conditions of the structure around the outside of them. There was quite a bit of cracking when we went and did the inspections there. How's it looking now that we've opened them up or emptied them?
Did you have to ask me that? Okay, we've got one empty. There's a structural inspection. There's been one initial. There's another one going on this week. It does show quite poor condition in places. So, as I said, we half planned this. So we are looking at what minimal work we can do to make sure it's sound and waterproof. Okay? So. The other thing is this particular filter, filter 1, or filter 9 as it's called, the treatment that's being done on that is a conservative treatment, and we are assessing whether we can do it another way which will reduce not only cost but also potential damage to the wall. So we're right in the middle of it. There is some poor condition in places, and as I said, structural engineers are looking at it now. Okay.
All right, thanks for that, Peter. Am I able to ask that we could just be kept...
Oh, no, I was just going to suggest maybe we should get an update progress report at the Infrastructure Committee meeting.
You'll get a report on that next year.
No, that'd be great, Peter. I know after our inspection, then we walked around, I figured we were going to find some stuff there once we emptied them, so thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Councillor Mathers. Councillor Rutherford, further question?
Yeah. Sorry, Mr Mayor, I keep jumping around and I found something else. Peter, I was just wondering, where our reaction time is a bit low, and we say the number of requests, is there anywhere through this that tells us whether we are having more breaks than usual? So, is it that the number of requests have jumped up dramatically? In here you've said, no, there's a number of reasons why we're behind, but what I'm trying to drill in here is, are we having more issues than normal?
Yeah, that's the report you get called the Whole of Council report, where I plot the number of breakages per month.
In the other...
In the other one, okay? But you're right, you can look at them both in parallel. Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much, Peter.
As always, I've got my spiel here for you, but that's because of the diverse nature. So I write it down so that I don't miss anyone out. Okay, so it's important to recap our activity and successes of the quarter. So to the end of December, we recorded over 25,000 volunteer hours, and as such, it was important that we held the end of year function at the Heritage Village and Zoo sites in December to show Council's appreciation. So planning is currently underway for further recognition and thanks during Volunteer Week, which is 15th to 21st of May. Throughout the quarter, we've had two key workshops with Council to progress and help progress our projects. The first being the draft Rockhampton Zoo business plan, which looks at the additional revenue needed to help fund the development of the facilities and expansion of animals over time. And the second was around Parks' proposed maintenance frequencies, the method of categorisation and the GIS field app, which most of you have seen now individually. And they'll be used to measure and monitor and schedule maintenance work. So the work on establishing our park service standards will continue this quarter and for some time yet. I'm pleased and very proud of the efforts and progress by the parks team and what they've achieved in a relatively short space of time. They've done a great job. So on the resourcing front, for those of you watching our grass grow, we are at the highest level of resourcing right now with contractors engaged and in an attempt to maintain the grass growth, and we're getting on top of that depending on the rain, humidity and everything else. So I really do look forward to continuing the momentum in this space and seeing the real difference on the ground, which I can see already. Our master planning work with Angus's strategic planning team continues. So we've had the common master plan actually go out for community consultation, and next week, councillors, I'll bring to you the ski gardens master plan for community consultation. We completed the work around our dog-friendly parks trials at 4 locations and resolved to progress those, which will commence this quarter. On the sporting front, through the cooperation with Greg's team, we've got the Queensland Touch Junior State Cup scheduled for June, and we've also successfully secured 2 years hosting rights to the Queensland Country Rugby Union State Cup. So that 3-day carnival will see a significant economic boost to the region and improve tourism with 500 competitors in both junior and senior divisions competing. In the zoo, we've had some sad times with the loss of our animal family members, which, as you can imagine, had a profound impact on the team. They soldier on and look for the good times and then celebrated Missouri's first birthday. More than 80 members of the public attended this event, which is evidence of the high level of support of the community with our zoo. So the team are now looking to plan to extend our family, and we have briefings later this month, which will take you through into how we might make that happen. So on to communities and culture. We're shortly coming up to 1 year anniversary of Ramoa, and we heard Jonathan talk earlier today. The numbers that we have exceeded for that year is close to 85,000 so far, and it should be 90,000 by the time it ticks over. So last quarter, we had Jonathan give us a snapshot of the upcoming exhibitions, and work is underway to do the next changeover now. Markets and Christmas events filled the Rockhampton Showgrounds and the Music Bowl when we hosted our Mayor's Carol by Candlelight, raising funds for the local charity Headspace. Into the Woods, which is our new musical, was cast, and a strong cast at that, and the creatives have begun on the costume and set creation. So that's coming up in, I think, middle of March, around the 19th. So councillors, you should have your invites. Council is continuing to review site operations and staffing requirements at the Heritage Village coming out of COVID in order to develop future plans to create a more sustainable operation. So councillors, we have an action which is 2.3.1.2 that is developing a 5-year business plan, and I need to flag that this may not be completed this financial year, so I'll need to amend that the next quarter. And I'm just struggling with resources in that space. In the community assets and facilities space, works to extend the Graysmere Cemetery, which we inspected on a bus tour, has reached practical completion with both that project both increases capacity at the site and also improves amenity of the facility. We've had the successful handover of the Michael O'Hanlon Clubhouse and the churches in Mount Morgan to community groups to improve these buildings for our community. We also see many minor works happening in respect of our normal replacement programs through play equipment, footpaths, shades, and in the parks and open spaces. So planning and regs section, we put forward the adoption of the biosecurity plan. That was for 2022 to 2026, which at the core is about managing the risks and impacts associated with pests and disease in the community. In the development engineering, the trunk works at Edenbrook reached a major milestone toward providing future growth for Parkhurst area. So the survey plan for the initial stages at Escardia will bring 70 lots to the market. On sustainability front, Council adopted the revised sustainability strategy. And that strategy supports the vision for a sustainable future by delivering local initiatives to help align with the evolving policy landscape. So we're now implementing that strategy for the region, and we continue to provide quarterly reports to Council on that. Finally, I've got an action 1.1.2.1, and this is around looking at our activities that we may be, where there might be a private service provider, and I'm working with finance, and hopefully we'll have more information to come back to you on that in the next quarter. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Alicia. Very in-depth report and a lot of a broad.
It's so diverse, I have to write it down.
Stress report. Thank you. Oh, Councillor Fisher, did you have a question?
Yeah, Alicia, that was a good presentation. Covered a... Yeah. I thought, actually, something there that you raised, that you're bringing a report back for the extension of sort of possible new animals for the zoo. It'd be really good to actually know, which are the exhibits that are more expensive than others, and some of those costs as well, because you often get those sort of questions. They're like, I just love the meerkats, and did get the brownie ticks last year. As that was I gave as a birthday present to my wife, and she still talks about that. So better than buying rings or anything like that.
Yeah.
But even the otters and things like that. But it would be really good to understand what are more expensive, what are exhibits that you have that are not as expensive but still crowd pleasers in that area.
So we've got a workshop booked on the 21st of February, councillors, with you. That primarily focuses around the chimpanzee species, but we can certainly drill into those sort of things on that day.
Good work. Thanks very much, Alicia. Thanks, Councillor Fisher, Deputy Mayor. Shannon.
Thank you. If I can just call upon Greg now to give the final presentation on Advance Rockhampton.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. I'd like to say I'll be brief, but quarter two was a really busy quarter of delivery for AR, and I'm very proud of the team, because at that stage we were still only running at about 60% of resources. So I suppose I tried to limit it down to a top 10, and I did actually make notes today as well, which is unlike me, to ensure I didn't miss some of the hard work the team had done. And number one being the Reds and the REAP, and delivering that first draft to this chamber, and then doing the final consultation. And as we know, subsequently, we've now endorsed that as a council. So a lot of hard work went into that, and I believe we've got a great plan and strategy going forward. Rookwood Weir, the landholder support scheme, was a very busy for Wade Clark and his team, working closely with landholders, still working closely with landholders. That closes next week. To some degree, Wade is still sitting at people's kitchen tables after hours, helping them complete grant applications. It's not just this round. We have our eye on the prize of what's next, and if we don't oversubscribe this, then the what next might not happen. So Wade is feeling the pressure, AR's feeling the pressure on that one, but we continue, and it's been a great contract for us, not just from a collaboration with Sunwater, but also with landholders, just building our database. And it's also allowed us to do some other great work with that money that we've made out of that Sunwater contract, to do things like making water work and a few other research projects. Heritage Minerals, well, we had a visit from the State Treasurer in quarter two, and we've seen what's happened since then with the NAIF grant. So Heritage is a great one for us to potentially reinvigorate Mount Morgan from an employment point of view, but other avenues as well. It's watch this space as we go forward. Two great events in November: the Energy Forum with the Assistant Minister for all things energy, and then the Grow Rockhampton function with over 100 agricultural suppliers and farmers, if I can put it that way, agriculturalists in the room at Cocoa Brew, which was great. We submitted our submission to the DSR, the Defence Service Review, There was a lot of work in that. That's that tripartite, well, actually four-way agreement with RDA, Rockhampton, Livingston and Gladstone councils. That is in, and the Mayor and I, and hopefully the motion will pass later, and Councillor Wickerson, we will head to Avalon, which is not just about an air show, it's very much about continuing that profile building and those important meetings to ensure that our submission gets due credit where it's required. We had some travel bloggers in town. I think I've since sent some links to the councillors from Live to Create. The other group that we had was Explore Shore. Bit of a mouthful, that one, but tongue twister. But Live Create, they've produced some great videos, and feel free to use those. They're public domain. It's great to have those bloggers in town just talking about the Rockhampton region. Zach and his team did a great job with that. They spent, 18 hours a day with those young fellas. Some of the pictures show brand new barbecues that were purchased just to show them flying into a barbecue area on the top of a mountain and those sort of things. 10K's ready, kicked off again in November. I'd love to expand this event, but that's for a future discussion, of course. It's certainly getting some profile out there, and I think a bigger prize pool might attract even more. But at least 50% of those visitations from the previous year were external to the region, and that's what we're after. So not just building that offering for our own, but also building it as an external offering. Families campaign, the holiday with kids, an important one leading into school holidays, so that was delivered throughout that quarter. Believe it or not, River Festival was in Q2, it seems so long ago. The inaugural Country on Key, which was a huge success with James Johnson, who has gone on to win a Golden Guitar Award for Best New Talent, which is a great one for us in the region to be able to talk about. The Christmas lights, of course, we supported the Christmas lights throughout, and still engaging with the residents on those Christmas lights. Nearly finished. We also we brought a new staff member on. She's with us for 12 months on a maternity leave contract, but she's done a lot of blogs in the past, so she's actually started writing new tourism blogs. So if you haven't seen those, jump on the Explore Rockhampton site. They're really good, and people do read the blogs and watch what happens on that site. So they're really good ones. I like them. From a traffic lights point of view, the red lights are the actions matrix from REDS and REAP. That's a red light because it just wasn't delivered on time due to our final endorsement. I've had 2 3-hour sessions with the team in the last 2 weeks starting to get that actions matrix. There's 111 actions out of that REAP, and we'll start to progress those. Not all of those 111 are advanced Rockhampton, so I'll collaborate with my colleagues in the executive to deliver upon those over the next 5 years. The other one, the other red light is the Renewable Energy Marketing Plan. That one we're just sort of not slowing, but we're just trying to ensure we have the right data before we start to market our region even more so. So we've already had one. This is an update of the previous marketing document, and then a bit of a marketing plan around that. So that will be delivered in this current quarter along the way. From a blue lights point of view, Council did endorse the 2023 events calendar, which I'm very excited about. I think we have a great offering. Alicia mentioned a couple of new events. It's great to add sporting tourism. We've spoken about sporting tourism, but I don't even necessarily put that in the major events category. I put it in the sporting tourism. So that touch football in July is going to be fantastic. And yes, we're definitely working with Rugby Union, and they've already been awarded that. We're just working with how we can work. So the collaboration between communities and AR has been key to the success of securing these events, and hopefully more to come. So that's it from me. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Greg. It has been a busy time, not only the work that the team have been doing, but I've been off lobbying to the state politicians about getting support and getting more recognition for Rockhampton to help deliver these programs that we're embarking on. So it's great to see the touch football and rugby union coming to town. That'll be a great economic boost and really highlight what we do in that sporting space. But I think it's a great opportunity there with all the other what's happening at the airport and other projects that are around. It's an exciting time for the region, and I think AR and being the lead economic development group for the Rockhampton region will do us great in that space. Questions, councillors? Councillor Rutherford.
Not a question, Mr. Mayor, just a comment, and probably more as a wrap up than everything. I always pick up on the couple of red lights and how do we improve, and I always seem to pick up the negative stuff, and I would really like to counter that with some very positive comments on, and congratulations to the organisation for the great work that has been done, you know, not just the last quarter, but, you know, the last 6 months at least. That's what we're dealing with at the moment. So, you know, you can tell the very diverse life that the organisation lives. So many different things, so many different organisations to deal with, and that is never an easy task at all. So I really would like to acknowledge some great work and congratulate the entire organisation.
Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor Rutherford. And I think, Greg, if you can pass that back to your team, we do really appreciate the hard work that goes on behind the closed doors that bring a lot of these events, and you know, the reports and strategies and plans that we've adopted, that we can take that back as the Board of Directors back to our community, and you know, hold them in good stead to say that we're taking the region forward. Okay, that said, we've gone through all the reports. Thanks very much again, Greg. Shannon?
That concludes the presentation now, Mayor and Councillors. So if there's no further questions, I'd ask that Council receive the progress report for Q2 and adopt the proposed amendments to the 22-23 operational plan.
I'm happy to move as recommended. Seek a seconder. Deputy Mayor Councillor Fisher. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much. That's an endorsement of that work to date, but I know there's areas we need to improve on, and we'll work very diligently in doing that. So thanks very much for that report, Shannon, and thanks very much to all the directors for their updates. Councillors, do we want to do this one or take a break? I was hoping to get that one out before half, but if you wanted to take a 10-minute break and then come back, we can knock this one out, and then we'll come back to the note. Oh, okay, we'll just keep rolling if that's the way. Okay. Right, Councillors, 11.6 internal boundary review. I'll hand over to Ross. Councillors, pretty self-explanatory, but if there are any questions, please, Ross can take those on note.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. The requirement, as per the report, the requirement of the legislation is that we do have to simply advise whether we are in quota or not. It's quite an odd process, since they give us information, we reply back to say, yes, we are. And that's basically that's all we do. If then from here, it's up to the minister to decide whether he's going to do anything further, but it's unlikely they would.
Okay.
So it's just, yeah.
No questions, councillors? I think we're pretty moved with that lot, so I'm happy to move as recommended. Seek a seconder. Councillor Latcham. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously.
I actually voted against it, Mr.
Oh, did you? Sorry?
I do believe that we should have gone with our boundaries, so I didn't.
Okay, just motion's carried. Sorry, not unanimously. I think the timing just was a problem. Yeah. Okay, that said, we'll move on to 12.1, the notice of motions. We have a notice of motion from Councillor Kirkwood, travel to the LGAQ Climate Resilient Council Symposium. I'm happy to move as recommended. Seconded, Councillor Fisher, Deputy Mayor. Put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Notice of motion for Councillor Wickerson to travel to the Avalon Internal Air Show and Aerospace Defence Exposition 2023. Again, councillors, I've asked Councillor Wickerson to step into this role to help with the push for the defence precinct in the area, as I have got a number of other pressing workloads on at the moment, so it's about delegation of a few of these roles, and you'll see them coming up in time to time. So I'm happy to move. Seek a seconder. Seconded, Deputy Mayor Councillor Fisher. We'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. 12.3, notice motion, Councillor Neil Fisher to travel for the Bowen Mining Basin Luncheon. That's retrospective, as it was held on the 9th of February. Again, I'm happy to move. Seek a seconder. Seconded, Councillor Wickerson. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. And the item 12.4, notice motion, Councillor Sri Rutherford requesting an estimate on the upgrade of 9 Mile Road and Fernyvale Road to an all-safe, all-weather road standard. Councillor Rutherford, you happy to move? Did you want to speak to that?
I would like to speak to it, just if I could, Mr Mayor.
I'll just grab a seconder before we go to there.
Yes.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Wickerson. Thanks, Councillor Rutherford.
Yes, Mr Mayor, as the report says, I had a petition presented with 128 signatures. I feel a little a little to blame that I couldn't present it here because I failed to tell them that they needed to put it on the specific council documents. So, you know, I need to apologise to them for that. But take that aside, the issue is still there, and I've put it to the council table. The sort of newly formed Mount Morgan Gun Club is up and running and extremely successful, and it sits at the end of 9 Mile Fernvale Road, and the number of cars that are using that now have increased dramatically on a regular basis. So we now have a very, very good sporting facility that's sitting with an access that really doesn't service that facility properly. Hence why there's a considerable amount of support for this. So I would ask Council to support the recommendation in this notice of motion.
Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Speakers against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Councillors, there's no questions on notice, no urgent business. Council, we do have items to be dealt with in closed session. 16.1, the application for concession for undetected leak rebate policy residential. Councillors, could I have a mover? Oh, you have a conflict of interest with that one, Councillor. Leave for that now. Okay, so I'll wait for Councillor Kirkland to go to leave the room, and then we'll move into the discussion around moving into closed session, councillors. Thanks, councillors. It's recommended that the meeting be closed to the public to discuss the following items, which are considered confidential in accordance with section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulations 2012 for the reasons indicated. Could I have a mover and a seconder with regards to that? Move Councillor Fisher, seconded Councillor Mathers. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion is carried. And could I seek a mover that we move in the meeting now move into closed session? Move Councillor Wickerson, seconded Councillor Fisher. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. I'll close.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody.
Okay, thank you. The officer's recommendation, council, is that the council adopt the recommendation as detailed in the report. Could I have a mover? Moved Councillor Fisher, seconded Councillor Latcham. Speakers for the motion? Speakers against? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, that brings us to the end of the agenda items for... Kirkland back in before I close the meeting. Thank you. Thanks for that, Ross. Sorry, I was jumping the gun. Meeting's closed. Sorry, Councillor. We just need you to come back in to close the meeting. There isn't. We finished all our agenda items. Oh, sorry. Yes, now, yep.